Now let's prepare this for deployment. And the first step here is that we want to lock in our core dependencies which this project uses, our core Python packages. And here we're using the Django package and also the pillow package because we have a model with an image field. So these are two core packages which are installed on our system that are required to run this. Now we also need to make sure that those dependencies are installed on the host we're going to deploy our application to. Now, how you ensure that your host has those packages will always depend on your host, so the official docs are the place to go. But most Python hosting providers support a special text file which you add to your project, which simply lists the dependencies you need. And that is a text file named requirements.txt. Now we could populate this file manually, but that would be a bit cumbersome, so I'm not going to do this here. I'm deleting that file instead. Instead, we can let Python create that file automatically for us by running a special command with pip freeze, python free-m pip freeze, then greater than sign, and then requirements.txt. If you run this, Python, or pip to be precise, will generate this file for you and lock in all the packages, all the extra packages you installed on your system. But that's a super long file for me here, containing a lot of dependencies which we don't actually need, because I happen to have a couple of packages installed which are not related to this project at all. So we could still use this file, but it would install a lot of unnecessary tools on our host. So I'll also not do that. Instead, I will do something which we could have done right at the start as well. We can create a virtual environment. And that's a common pattern with Python development in general, that you create different virtual environments for your different projects. And then packages are installed in that virtual environment only instead of in a global context. Now, setting up a virtual environment is thankfully quite straightforward and simple. There's a tool built into Python 3, a module called VNV for a virtual environment. You can run this command to create a new virtual environment, and I want to create it here in my project folder. So all I'll do is I'll just decide on a name for my virtual environment. And I'll name it Django _ my _ site. So like my project, but then with Django in front of it. If we hit enter, now this new folder is created here, the Django my site folder. And Visual Studio Code even detects that I added a virtual environment, and it asks me if I want to use that to select it for this workspace folder. Now I'll pick yes here because that's the most convenient way of using this virtual environment. If you're not prompted though, attached you find an article which explains how you can then activate this virtual environment in your terminal. It's also very simple and straightforward. Now we don't need to do anything in that folder. Instead, if I now create a new terminal tab, I'm automatically activating that environment. You can tell that you activated this virtual environment by the fact that you should have the environment name in front of your path here in the terminal. So here I have this name in brackets at the beginning of my command line. And once this is activated, we can again install the crucial packages for this project with Python or Python 3-m pip install, and then here it's Django and Pillow. These are the two packages this specific project needs. If you have a project that needs other packages as well, you should also again install them, now this time in this virtual environment. Now that means that they will also only exist in this virtual environment and not outside of it. And any packages which you did install globally before will only exist outside and not inside of this virtual environment. Therefore, now that this is all installed, if we run Python 3-m pip freeze greater than requirements text again, it will again regenerate this text file, but now this file contains way less dependencies. It now really just contains the packages which this project needs. And that's exactly what we want here. So now with that, we created this requirements text file, which will be picked up by many hosting providers to install all the required dependencies. And the AWS service, which we are going to use, is no exception. It will also automatically look at this file when we deploy our application and install all these packages on the server, so on that machine we deploy our application to. And now we're done with that. Now let's dive back into the settings file and let's talk about environment variables.